My name is Molly Pyle. I am the co-chair of the Women's Impact Network, and I am the senior program manager for SU Ventures. And my job ultimately is designing and implementing programs for startups, but I'm also super honored and thrilled to be doing this very important work of the Women's Impact Network. And I'm joined by an incredible colleague and friend, Stacy Maldonado.
Hi everyone, I'm Stacy. I'm a senior events manager here at SU, and my job here is to execute our custom and special events programs, and I'm also one of the co-chairs for WIN. And so I'll share a little bit about WIN. WIN is a global women's initiative here at SU. We started as a research employee group, but now given that we're a global company, we've expanded to be a global initiative. And really our aim is to create opportunities for women and really just carrying a diversity and inclusion agenda because women are only one of a bigger umbrella within diversity and inclusion. So we are really just hoping to bring representation not only at SU, but within our global community.
Yeah, absolutely. And ultimately, we're hoping to increase access to information and tools that enable communities around the world to support women and female identifying people in achieving their highest potential. And we also want to work with allies, with minorities, with ultimately every person on earth who believes in a future that is more equitable, right? And so this webinar series, Exponential Equity, is all about exploring exponential solutions that are related to gender, diversity, inclusion, justice, equality. And today we're really thrilled to be talking about entrepreneurship in particular because it's so important. It's obviously building businesses that will massively impact the future, but how do we make sure that the people who are creating this technology are diverse, are, caring about things that matter to us and are real social innovations in the world. And so that's something that we really want to talk about is how do we ultimately build a more inclusive and diverse entrepreneurial ecosystem, because that matters, right? And we'll get into why it matters with our amazing guests who are speakers and incredible movers and shakers and innovators within the SU community and within the world at large. So I would love to welcome Barbara Silva and Gary Urteaga. Gary may or may not be able to chime in right now as he is in transit, just trying to find a soft landing. But Barbara is the Best Innovation CEO. It's a company she founded, and she's also the Singularity Chile Summit CEO. And she is just in general an incredible leader and an advocate and champion for women and for Singularity University in general. I'm biased because I've spent time with Barbara in Chile, but just truly making an incredible splash in that country. So Barbara, anything else you'd love to tell us about yourself or why ultimately you're excited to be here?
Thanks very much, Molly and Stacy, for this invitation. And I would like to congratulate you both for the amazing work and the awareness creation of these issues. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I truly believe that women have the power to build new realities, new organizations, and new regulations inside organizations. So, and that's the reason why I built Her Global Impact, an organization that we help women to build their startups to integrate women in the digital world. After I start my company and after I start working with Singularity University, it is a pity to say that there is an imbalance between women and men every time that you try to negotiate a business opportunity or raise funds. So while we all together create this awareness, we can contribute to make our world a better place.
Absolutely. And the way that you're doing that in Chile is like truly groundbreaking. I'm excited for us to talk more about that. Thanks. We also have Gary. Gary is the Fandango LATAM VP of Business Development and founder of the SU Global Impact Challenge in Peru. Gary, are you in a place where you could introduce yourself or tell a little more? We'll see.
I'm here.
Yay.
I think I was muted. Yes. Hi. Well, thanks again for inviting me for this call. I think this webinar is very important for our industry in entrepreneurship and innovation in Latin America. I do face a couple of challenges regarding being able to identify and empower women in our ecosystem in Peru that I will share with you later. And about me, I am an entrepreneur. I have been developing startups since 2007, more or less, more than 12 years in the industry, having sold a couple of companies. My latest startup, Cine Papaya, was acquired by Fandango, NBC Universal in late 2016. So I'm still on the earn-out period where I am a VP of business development for Latin America. And however, I have been a very active angel investor in startups in Peru, and I have been very actively seeking female entrepreneurs. I did co-found one startup that had a female founder, and it has been doing really well, and it received a nice round of investment, and it's scaling up very fast. And I encourage all the startups in my portfolio also to identify female team members and female co-founders, also for the issues of diversity, more angles of thought for any particular problem. And there's a very interesting case that I can talk to you about later too. So yes, thank you for inviting me, and I'm very happy to be part of this call.
Great. Thank you so much again, Gary and Barbara, for joining us. So just to explain to our audience the flow for this webinar, we have a couple questions that we'll be asking Barbara and Gary. And then if you have any comments or questions, please go ahead and type them in the chat, and we'll make sure that towards the end of the webinar, we'll address your questions. So our first question is, what does inclusivity in entrepreneurship look like to you, and why does it matter? And whoever wants to start first.
Well, for me, inclusivity is the fact that everybody, despite their physical condition, their race, their gender, has a capability, an ability to execute things, and they do it with the same salary, with the same respect that everybody deserves. But unfortunately, the world doesn't behave that way. So the way I see and how I work with my team to foster inclusivity is to provide the best conditions, focus on the integrity and the values of the organization, to encourage teams on be respectful of the gender, the age, the diversity of countries, religions, culture. It's not only about gender, it's more deep. It's a more deep conversation. For instance, in Latin America, we have been facing a huge migration of people from different countries, such as, for instance, I am from Chile, and nowadays we have been hosting people from Tahiti, Haiti, Venezuela, Colombia, and everybody deserves the same treatment. And as a leader of my company, I need to make sure that everybody have the same treatment.
Yeah, totally. How about you, Gary? What does inclusivity really mean to you or look like in entrepreneurship, and why should anyone care?
Yeah, it's really important for its relevance on diversity. For entrepreneurship and innovation, something that you need is diversity of lines of thoughts, of ideas, diversity of backgrounds, of careers, of talents. So in that sense, when you have people with different qualities and different backgrounds from different countries, from different genders, the more diverse you have this pool of talent, the better you will have a chance to be creative in the process of building your company, your products and services. So definitely diversity is something that it's really seeked for, and it's important for team building. It's important for the growth of any team and any startup and any company, any organization in reality, right? So that's what it means to me.
Awesome. A quote I really like while we're on the topic is, diversity is being invited to the party, inclusion is being asked to dance. So it's one thing to just say, look at this really diverse group of people we have here. Isn't it great? They're all entrepreneurs. But if you're not actively funding them or giving them time to pitch or introducing them to mentors or investors or doing the things that actually move the needle, then it's just performative, right? And you two are people we see in our community who are actually doing the work to make sure people are not only invited to the party, but are like really dancing and owning the dance floor, if that makes sense. So
I really love that quote and makes a lot of sense. It's exactly about that.
Yeah.
And I would also add to by nature, our ecosystem, our SU community is global and diverse, but we're with WIN and with having these webinars, we're really trying to be a lot more intentional with how do we make sure that all the representation is truly represented by having them at the table and speaking for their ideas, speaking how we can be more inclusive and like you said, Gary, more creative in how we implement everything that we do.
Yeah.
So could you both share a little more about your work and specifically how you think it contributes to a more inclusive entrepreneurial ecosystem?
Well, I can share about our experience with a Global Impact Challenge in Peru. I think it was an important step for us in supporting diversity and inclusion. We worked really hard since 2015 in making the opportunity for innovators and entrepreneurs in Peru to be able to participate in the Global Solutions Program at Singularity University. From my own experience, I just had like some visits to Singularity and to Silicon Valley, and that gave me a framework to be able to start a few companies and to grow the startups and sell them and everything. So I thought if any other young entrepreneur could have the chance not to be there for 1 week like I did, but to be there for 10 weeks and be more connected, then I thought, wow, I cannot even believe the things that they might be able to do, right? So when I was starting this effort to organize the competition in Peru, I had this idea to have a competition where we could promote inclusion for female innovators and entrepreneurs. So the first year, we were able to have funds to have 2 winners from Peru, from the Science and Technology Program of Peru. But we had a big discussion on this inclusivity issue. And this is one of the questions that I wanted to share with you as ideas. The big discussion was that from their point of mind and their point of view, they said, okay, so we should have 2 winners and everybody will apply, open to everybody. So in this sense, it was diverse and inclusive, open from people from the capital of Lima and from the regions of Peru and for men and women. But in the rules for the competition, I wanted to include a line that said that one of the winners had to be female. And this generated a big discussion because they said, we shouldn't do that because this is kind of not allowing the best person of the competition to be selected. And so I had both men and women question the idea of having in the rules, put a rule that say that we have to have one female winner. I don't know if you understand the paradox. And at the end, I did fight strong for it. And yes, at the end, we did have one, in the rules, we had the winners of the competition, the first woman with the highest score in the evaluation will go. The first 3 women with the highest scores in the evaluation will go to the finals directly. So this assured that we will have women in the finals. And then the second rule was that one of the winners has to be a woman. This assured us that we will have a woman in the finals. So the first year we didn't have any problem, because out of the overall tally of points, and I already made a strong effort to reach women scientists and innovators to apply. So during the first year, like our top 10 finalists, like 7 were women. So in this sense, without the rules, we would have still kind of fit the process. Everything was great. Out of our finalists, 3 were women. So out of our winners, 1 was a woman. So the rules were not needed. It was just a natural process. The second year, we kind of had a similar situation. Like out of the top 10, the top 5 were women. And so again, the rules were not needed, and so forth. But last year, we had a particular situation where the top 10 finalists, just 1 was a woman. Right? So according to these rules, she would have been kind of an immediate winner. And this generated a lot of problems with the judges, with the organization, with everybody. So in this sense, one of the issues that I noticed was that also, like some women also said, why would you give us a handicap? We don't need a handicap. We can just do fine by ourselves. Right? So what do you think about that? Do you understand the paradox there?
Absolutely. And I think that's why Barbara is a great co-host for this panel, because she could speak very specifically, I think, to her work doing an all-women global impact challenge. So
yeah, so actually, just to lead on to Barbara on the follow-up, what I was thinking is to avoid this gender issue. I was thinking, well, maybe for this year, I will only host a female-only competition. If men and women are going to complain about who has the right or not to have a handicap or a little bit of an affirmative action to support this diversity and inclusion, then I will just make an all-female competition. So then that is the rule, right? If you're a man, you cannot apply. But anyway, that's the anecdote and the paradox, and it still raises this question for me.
Well, thanks, Gary, for the work you're doing to become a champion for women. You have an amazing wife as well, an amazing entrepreneur too. And it's very important the job you're doing, because sometimes, you know, at the end, the strongest networks the world have are the ones led by male. So most of women who are in successful positions are the ones that understand the game and use the right opportunities that men give them, right? So it's not it's not man or woman. It's about how women can create value to a work, to an entrepreneur, or a startup, or to any single activity that both women and men participate. And I was reading some statistic about in Ernst & Young that says that it will take around 217 years to close the gender gap if we go in this speed. Mm-hmm. So we need more Gary to support women to open more opportunities for women. So for instance, what I did in Chile about 6 years ago was, okay, there are few women who are doing startups using exponential technologies. I mean, but the problem was not about startups. The problem was about the vision, like how big women are thinking about their jobs or their careers, or how confident they feel about their talents. So what I did was to create a global impact challenge for Singularity University focused on women. And why I did that? Because there are so many opportunities for men, but women has very few opportunities to get awards that help them to move into a different level. So what we are looking at here, Global Impact, which is the name of this Global Impact Challenge, is to identify catalysts of change, women that open opportunities to other women, women who build platform to the development of other women. So we truly believe that if we have more women creating high impact startup using exponential technologies, we will include more women into the digital economy, right? And I was reading another statistics. For instance, 20% of, there are 20% less women in leadership positions in the mobile community industry. And for every 100 venture capital firms, only 8% of the investing partners are women. There is a fact that if in a venture fund there is no woman, they are less likely to be invested in another woman startup. So we need to build an inclusive ecosystem that help women to be successful. And the reason why I truly believe that is so challenging is because when it was the Industrial Revolution, that revolution was not led by women, was designed by male. So in this design, men designed the boards, and we were not part of this conversation. So now in the digital age, we have the opportunity to design the startup we want, use the technology if we understand the technology, if we have a big and broad vision, and at the end, create our own boards. We don't need to find to be part of a board if we can create a board. And that is my vision.
Absolutely. I love it. I'm so inspired by what both of you are doing. It's just such important work in the world. And I think we can all agree, not enough people are thinking in this way of how can they change their organization? How do they need to hold their boards or others accountable to hiring, promoting, investing in women and in diverse and more inclusive initiatives?
And something that just to add to that, something that we talk a lot about here at SU is that it shouldn't just be women doing the work for women, but we need allies. Like Barbara said, we need more Garys in the world. We need more just people helping create those opportunities together, because we can't do this alone. So we need a lot of collaboration.
Yeah, I would like to share another case. There is a wonderful organization in Peru called Laboratoria. I don't know if you know about it. And their project started about 4 years ago, and their idea was to bring women from with no career, no university background, and to bring them and kind of hire them for 3 months to get an intensive course in coding and programming. So when their first batch came out, and it was just a very tiny startup led by Mariana Costacheca, and I would really encourage everybody to follow this case, Laboratoria. So the first batch had about 20 women, and Of course, they didn't have a lot of experience in coding. They learned a little bit during those 3 months of training, but we, in my startup, we hired 5 of them. Immediately out of their cohort, we hired them and we gave them the opportunity. During the first months in our company, they were also learning on the job. And after 4 years, one of them is still working in our company and still thriving as a coder and developer in our company. However, Laboratoria has grown quite a lot since. They have opened cohorts in Brazil, Chile, Mexico. A couple of years ago, she was invited by President Obama to share the stage in Silicon Valley with Mark Zuckerberg. Companies like Google and Microsoft, and all of them are investing in this initiative, and it's growing kind of exponentially. So this is a beautiful case of inclusion, diversity, entrepreneurship, and that I would encourage everybody to follow. Laboratoria from Peru, and led by a female entrepreneur called Mariana Costacheca, who is an amazing woman.
That's so awesome. And we've shared that link to Stacy put in the chat, Laboratoria in the chat. You can find the link, as well as links to Barbara and to Gary's Global Impact Challenges, or GICs as they're called. And as Holly's saying, please do ask if you have questions or anything you'd like for us to address, throw them into the chat. And otherwise we will continue on because there's so many things we could ask them.
Yeah. I think I haven't shared with you that implementing a new program in Chile, but it's for high school girls.
Wow, I didn't know that. No, that's awesome.
So the name is Inspirators, and is to inspire the new generation of girls to be successful. So we are focused on girls between 14 years old and 18 years old who are in the high school and in unprivileged schools, I mean public schools, and they don't have the tools, the capabilities, the network, but we want to help them to build a vision about who want to be in the future. So this is a 2-day program where we bring role models from all over the world and from Latin America as well, to give them, you know, the possibility to interact with them directly and see, hey, if she can, I also can. So like, it's amazing the work Laboratoria does, because they provide them the tools, you know, the technical tools to code, which is an amazing skill. But at the same time, we need to provide them a vision of the future. If we want to change the world and we want to change our culture, we need to start from the young people and give them the access, the capabilities, the tools, the vision to become whatever they want to do, whatever they want to become, right? And so what I'm doing, that is what I'm doing, and we are focused in our first pilot for 500 girls.
That's amazing. Congrats, Barbara. Wow.
Yeah, congratulations. Sounds amazing.
Thank you.
So I was wondering too, I would love to hear from our audience members, if you could type into the chat who you are. So are you an entrepreneur? Are you a business leader? Are you someone in the nonprofit space? Because I think it'd be great to know if we can give any sort of actionable advice to our audience about how to make this real in the world. What are some things that we can do as leaders, as individuals, as entrepreneurs? Right now, maybe what's one thing we could do to make the world or our industry more inclusive? Do you have any thoughts or any advice you normally give folks or colleagues, Barbara or Gary? No?
No, well, internally in our teams and our startups, like I said, we are always looking to have a diverse team. So I'm always encouraging our teams to do it. Just, I have another case. I am an angel investor in a startup called Chatty. You can check it out. It's okchatty.com. It's a very early stage startup founded by 4 engineers from National University of Engineering of Peru. And there are 4 guys, right? So they have been working a lot, just mostly in the technology. Mm-hmm. So since I joined as an angel and I have been pushing for this diversity inclusion, we already have 3 female members in the team, mostly one of them working in design, one of them working in the business development, one of them working in customer service. And the growth of the company has really accelerated strongly. And I strongly believe that it's because of the participation of this increased diversity in the team, right? Like from 4 engineers to people with more soft skills and with diversity in gender and backgrounds. So you can actually really see the outcome. Now this company has just closed a round of investment valuing at $500,000. Yesterday they received an investment offer from Mexico that is doing a 3x on the valuation for $1.5 million. They had just started the Startup Chile program. So Barbara, I'm going to introduce the CEO to you. He's in Chile right now. And I mean, the inclusion and making the team makes a better atmosphere, more creative, more ideas, more energy. This is something that works. And I can continue with specific examples of companies and people around me, and I really see it work in front of me. It's like magic. It's like if you try to bake a cake and you're not putting an ingredient. Not putting an ingredient is a big mistake.
I really like to build teams that integrate people who come from different backgrounds, like designers, architects, from social science, engineers, because everybody can bring a different perspective into a challenge. At the same time, I have diversity of sexuality, ages. I mean, I have completely different generations, like in the 70s, in the 60s, in the 50s, in the 40s, because at the end, the cross-transaction of this kind of conversations, the people with more experience can exchange the know-how, capabilities, and the younger people can provide other different perspectives that grow the organization. So, for instance, young people provide the energy, the ambition, the passion, and the people with more experience can provide, insights, experience, and more, maybe patient to solve problems. So have the right balance of people regarding ages, sexuality, skills, capability. It can turn in a very cool power tool to grow amazing business.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that is kind of where it begins, right? Is showing the proof by just sharing space, and then also just showing the outcomes, letting your work and the success of your work really be on display, and people realize, hey, Barbara and Gary, they're doing things in their country that is really catching a lot of attention, that's really making an impact. Like, what is different? What is working about that? And then people start to realize it's because you pay very special attention to diversity and inclusion and equity, maybe in ways that other people are not thinking about. They don't think it's a business, there's a business value behind it, or...
Yeah, technology allows us to democratize value. For instance, a person who has a specific disability, maybe can't walk because that person hasn't had any legs. But if it's using, for instance, telepresent robots, that person needs to use their mouse, their intelligence, the way they can solve problems. So technology democratizes the access to the world, because geography is not a boundary. The boundary is in our mindset. So a person without leg, using technology, can become a very powerful person. So technology and digitalization help us to multiply our capabilities and make this world even more inclusive.
Just like Gary also said, it makes the team more creative. We bringing people from different backgrounds, it helps us to think about things that we don't think about because we're not experiencing them. So like you said, someone who is disabled and is on the team, they have their own experience and they're able to then bring that perspective into the team and make it more accessible to people who might be experiencing the same thing. So that is very powerful. So we've talked a lot about like the accomplishments and how you are creating these opportunities, and Gary touched upon this a little bit, but what are some of the challenges that you had to overcome when you were setting your mission to create more inclusivity? And how did you break through? And with that, I also want to tag on a question that one of our participants made, and that we've gotten that question too, of like, why create these opportunities for just women? Can you touch on that a little bit? And I know that's a very loaded question, and let me know if I need to repeat any of it.
Yeah, well, I think I already shared some of my also frustration, because it's something that not necessarily has a very complete logical explanation that I've developed to do it. But for me, it was based on instinct, knowing that there's a lot of talent there, and that such an affirmative action or inclusivity clause or rule would benefit the competition, right? And so yes, the problem that I had was of people, both female and male, saying, from the part of male, saying it is unfair, like just the best qualified person should go, and it shouldn't be based on because she is a woman, she would have a benefit. And from the side of woman also that might touch some sensitivity issue that can also even be offended by saying, why do you need to help me if I can do it by myself? So I really didn't expect this type of backlash, because in just my intuition just thought that this help is kind of needed. And I also saw it because I am not part of the judging process at all. But in most judging, you have usually mostly male judges, mostly male panelists, mostly male speakers. And I really never understood that. When for our events and for our activities and our judges, I always try to include women in part of the decision process too. Yes, I mean, this is a kind of a challenge that I still do not understand well how to deal with this backlash. But as a solution would be, well, so I'll just do an all-female competition.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, your question is a tricky question because in my point of view, I feel I need to start from some point, you know. I really want to contribute to make this world a better place. So the world is facing so many challenges. The global grand challenges of Singularity University are related with water, energy, security, shelter, energy. But I truly believe that there is one that is very challenging to change. And if we change that one, we can solve all the problem of the world, which is the human mindset. And in this mindset, we see a lack of generosity. So one of the problems that the world is facing today is our human selfishness. So if we were living in an abundance economy in this moment, we were not talking about this conversation because the inclusion, the diversity issues will be solved. But that is not the case. So because I would love to solve all the problem, but I can't. I start from some point. So I start giving opportunities to women. But at the same time in my team, I hire people not from the best universities with the best qualifications. I like to hire people that really have the school of the street. You know, that are persevering, that are hard workers, that have strong values, that they really are passionate to become successful. And they like to build things from scratch. So for me, diversity is also to include that people that not all the time have the opportunity, but they need one opportunity to prove themselves. And I love to do that because it's amazing what people can accomplish. So if we really want to make this world an inclusive world, we need to give chance to people to prove themselves that they can make it.
Absolutely. I love it. And I love that perspective, Barbara. It's what makes you just such an incredible leader in the SU community and at large. I know I sound like a fan. It's because I am. So we're getting some really great comments too from our participants, and we want to make sure their voices are heard. Yolanda, we addressed the sort of digital platform for women you're building and why or how we can talk about women only. It looks like Daniela said, I think in that case where there's not recognition of the need or of equity or additional opportunity for a specific group, the communication and formalization of organizational values is a must and tends to help. And I agree. I think that you first have to name that you take a stand for something, right? And then from there, you have, to Barbara's point, you have to start from somewhere and then build up and name that this is why I'm doing this and it matters.
Yeah, a lot of it is also just bringing awareness. I mean, we are from the US and we have one experience. We are different people experience gender and inclusivity in different countries in a different way. So diversity and inclusion can very much mean one thing here in the US, but then a much broader thing from a global scope. And so that's something that we are constantly talking about. And I lost my train of thought of why I was saying that.
Just that how cool it is that Barbara and Gary are our community members too from Chile, Peru.
Well, actually, I am a little bit selfish on this sense. I really feel a lot of happiness when I see our female winners on stage pitching and when they get selected out of a finalist, and to follow through their advancement in their careers is amazing. Like, for example, Monica Abarca, our first winner of 2015, she went to SU. She was a winner as a student, went to SU just freshly graduated from the university, and came back as an entrepreneur. And her startup, Kaira, has got an investment from one very important senior businessman from Peru. She's building drones to identify pollution in the environment, building the drones from scratch. And I see her winning competitions on interviews on TV, and I feel so proud. And it's a little selfish thought of, wow, I am happy I found her. And it's the same with all of them. And yeah, I mean, I really feel the passion of the female entrepreneurs and female winners. Our male winners probably do not communicate their passion as well as the female do. So it's a little bit selfish. I really feel happy for their success, and I see their growth over time.
Yeah. I think if it's like your selfish pleasure is to help support female entrepreneurs succeed, there's nothing wrong with that. I also saw a question from Kelly. Are you aware, to Barbara or Gary or others in the webinar, honestly, if you have an answer from the community, put it in the chat, but are you aware of any platforms available to women to help scale their businesses, particularly providing access to tech skills to help scale business models. Would love to connect on our business, which deals with democratizing success for women. That sounds really cool. Let's share any resources in the chat or any thoughts on that, Barbara or Gary, on platforms available to women to help scale businesses.
Yes, absolutely. In the US, you will find Astia, which is an amazing network for women leading startups that provide tools, training, and also funding. They have an angel fund as well. So check astia.org. Also, Springboard Enterprises, which is a high growth woman leading startups. Like the most successful startups led by women are part of that network. They also provide training and funds, and they're focused on fashion, agri-industry, and of course wearables. In Latin America, there are interesting networks. I would not say that are too strong, but it depends on the country. But for instance, in Chile, we have Mujeres Empresarias, or like Girls in Tech is an amazing community of knowledge sharing regarding tech startups. So you will find people that has the same interest as you, and at the same time meet them. They have different chapters in all over the world that you can meet with them. And there are few investment funds for women in Latin America. Ecuador just opened one. But I think we need to keep growing more organizations that provide tools, resources, training, and funds for women.
Yeah, I could not agree more, Barbara. There's another, and it's not necessarily scale businesses, but it is to learn tech skills. It's called Hackbright Academy. That's just an all-female coding school. And there's a lot of other ones like that as well, if that's also of interest. And I think the more we see women in STEM and in tech, obviously learning how to code and learning how to start startups or getting better in those skill sets and leveling up their ability and desire to be in the entrepreneurial and tech ecosystems, the more we're going to see products, services, startups that reflect our diverse range of values and needs. So
yeah. There's also a Facebook community called Women in Tech. So I would encourage anyone to check it out and maybe ask that question on there. And I'm sure tons of you.
Yes, I can write it down. And I think that what we could do in the follow-up email, where I've been recording this webinar, by the way, so you can rewatch it. And we can send some of these links in a sort of resources section of that follow-up email to make sure we put them in the chat, but we want to make sure folks, access this stuff and reach back out to us with questions, maintain this as an active dialogue, because the SU community is a place, we're not just thinkers, we're people of action. So how we can encourage that action and stay connected is really important, I would say.
Yeah, I am sharing one link with a lot of female related investors from 37 Angels. And there's a big list of networks and resources for female investors, entrepreneurs, angels, all females that want to become active in the ecosystem. Then I would also like to share, I am an Endeavor entrepreneur. Endeavor is an amazing organization that supports entrepreneurs around the world for high impact entrepreneurship. It's led by an amazing female leader and innovator called Linda Rothenberg, that she has created Endeavor from scratch, from a single idea, and has grown into an organization around the world that helps scale businesses from diverse people, right? And I really recommend anybody to get involved with Endeavor. If you don't have an Endeavor office in your city or in your company, you can reach out to them and they will give you guidelines on how to start it. It is a very powerful network, and of course, being led by Linda, it has a very strong mindset to empower women.
To build upon Gary said, I don't know if you have heard about Trish Costello. She was the founding CEO of the Kaufman Foundation, and she was the first supporter of Springboard Enterprises. And now she is building her next startup, which is Portafolia. And Portafolia, it's a crowdfunding platform where startups can join this community and get funding from the same, another different network Trish created, which is the Rising Tide Network. And Rising Tide Network is a community of women who are leading corporations who doesn't know anything about startups or investment. So she built different venture funds up to $1 million. So she has 99 investors in each fund for a specific area. So for instance, fashion and wearables, healthcare, biotech. So she has each fund. It's led by 99 investors who put 10K, and they don't know anything about how to invest. So they learn how to invest in a startup in this community, and they invest through Portfolio. So Portfolio startups get found by women who are leaders of corporations and are in the process of learning how to invest in startups.
That's so awesome. Wow. I love that too, because it just makes you think about like why women, or why we do this too, and how just historically you look at the networks, like, because what that really is about building a strong network of women specifically who want to invest and support each other and see each other grow. And men have had networks like that for a long, long, long time. And that's fine. It's just a kind of fact of the matter that if women were not in a workplace as long, which we haven't been because of, various societal sort of norms, gender roles, we haven't had as long of a time to build these strong sort of networks, right? Where we can support each other and we have wealth that we're able to transfer. And so that's part of it to me too, is that these things exist for men and have existed for centuries, and women had a lot more of a sort of late start to building infrastructure for these networks that can be very powerful and supportive to accomplish the things that we want, right?
In the long run, I remember what I was going to say earlier, and it ties to what you just said of just having these conversations, because a lot of people may not even be aware. A lot of even within women, like there's a diverse perspective. Some women want the extra help, some women don't. And then men might not realize the struggle that women might go through to reach a career or pursue entrepreneurship or whatever the matter might be. So it's just having these conversations and bringing awareness to the issue and just kind of opening people's eyes is what's going to lead us towards that direction.
Absolutely. So we're just about at time. We have like 4 minutes left or so. If there's any final questions that anyone wanted to ask to Barbara or Gary, speak now or forever hold your peace or hold it until, you feel like reaching out again. Okay. We'll continue this chat. Otherwise, I would just say, Barbara and Gary, if there's anything you would kind of want to leave us with as we think about inclusion and how to just make, especially entrepreneurial ecosystems, but all communities more inclusive. Any parting words for us?
Well, from my side, I am more a doer in the sense of actually getting involved in terms of as an angel or trying to connect people, trying to make something happen. So if there's anybody in the webinar live or later when you're listening in and you have an idea or there's something that you would like, please do not hesitate to contact me. You can reach me at gary.urteaga.com, gary.urteaga@gmail.com, I'm sorry. And I will be happy to connect you. Just tell me if you have a startup, just send me your pitch deck. And if I can think of anybody to connect you, I will be happy to do so. And finally, I would like to thank the organizers. This is an amazing opportunity and a strong sign of diversity and inclusion for including me in this talk. I really feel honored and happy that I was able to participate. Thank you.
We promise we didn't ask Gary to say that, but we just genuinely appreciate you, Gary, doing this because, like we've said, this is not just something that women need to do or should be doing. This is all inclusive. That means men, women, gender non-conforming, non-identifying folks, everybody and anybody coming in to say we care about a more abundant future. We care about economies and societies and culture that are reflective of the vast array of thoughts and perspectives and feelings and ideas and ethnicities and races and genders and ages and everything. And so how are we building this world and what does it really mean and look like? And we will share Barbara, if she's okay with it, to her email, but Gary will pop into the chat since he did share it. Anything you wanted to add, Barbara, or say?
Yeah, I would encourage the people here in our conversation to take risk, because the biggest failure I feel I have made was not to take risk. So there is never the right time to start something. And I really encourage to get more involved in the Singularity University community, in the Women and Innovation Network of Singularity University, and be part of this kind of organization. I encourage also people to be themselves. Like, I think the most brave people I have ever met are the ones that are brave and they don't feel any fear about to tell what they think. And if they think something, they are doing that. And that it makes the difference between a dreamer and an entrepreneur. Dreamer can dream a lot, never execute. Entrepreneurs execute. And innovation, it's all about make things happen.
I love it. And I love what Lena, one of our attendees, said, inclusion is a right, not a privilege for a few. I think that's a perfect way to kind of end this. Like, that's the message, right? This is our human right, and you two are leaders in exercising that. And we thank you for that. And we want to see more people take action in this space, even if it's starting small, like reach out to your local SU chapter or to Barbara or to Gary or to Endeavor or to SU at large and say, I care about this. Let me do more. You know, what more can be done? There's so much. Start anywhere. Just start somewhere and start now, right?
Mm-hmm. And the last thing that I'm going to pop into the chat is just our email address. If you have any questions on how to just start a women's initiative, on how to collaborate, if you want our thought partnership, whatever resource or support that we can offer, we're happy to provide it.
Yeah, stay in touch with Wynn. We'll send you that email now, put it in the chat. And like we said, we'll follow up with these resources, with more links, and with the recording to this webinar in an email that should go out soon. And a huge thank you. It wouldn't have been possible without B, Cody, Holly. These are internal folks at SU who have helped manage this and make this possible. So just shout out to Holly, Cody, B, Venus, everybody else. Of course, Regina was here, Antonio, Melissa's here. All of that. We're grateful to all of you for joining us ultimately for this, because it makes it just more known that this matters, right? That's our community cares about diversity, inclusion, and how we can be really making moves in this space.
Thank you.
Hello. Well, thank everybody. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you for teaching me how to use Twitter like 7 years ago. I still use it. She was the first person to taught me how to use Twitter, and it helped me a lot in networking. Thank you, Regina. If you're there, thank you for everything. I really feel the honor to be part of this conversation.
Absolutely.
Take care.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good one.
Be part of
Bye.
this. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.